The observation deck of the Stellar Academy carrier hummed with the low thrum of deep space engines, a sound so constant that most cadets learned to sleep through it within their first week. Cadet Maya Torres had been aboard for 3 months now, long enough that the vibration felt like a heartbeat. Her quarters were small but provided a luxury reserved for human cadets after the incident with the Vrexian who'd mistaken shared sleeping arrangements for a territorial challenge. She'd just settled into her bunk when she heard it, a soft scratching at the ventilation grate above her desk. Maya froze, hand instinctively reaching for the emergency beacon, but something made her pause. The grate fell with a clatter, and then it appeared, a creature no larger than a terrier, covered in iridescent scales that caught the dim emergency lighting like oil on water, with tufted ears that lay flat against its elongated skull, and eyes. Those eyes were too large, too knowing, reflecting the room's amber glow like twin moons. It dropped to the floor with surprising grace, and stared at her with an expression Maya recognized despite its alien features, pure, unadulterated fear. The creature's flanks heaved with rapid breaths, its tail wrapped tight around its body. Maya's training screamed at her to hit the alarm, but her instincts whispered something different. "Hey," she breathed, keeping her voice soft. "You're safe here." The creature's ears twitched forward, and Maya watched its nostrils flare, analyzing her. She'd seen that look before, at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, where she'd volunteered as a teenager, in the eyes of injured predators who didn't know if she was threat or salvation. Slowly, Maya shifted to sit cross-legged on her bunk, leaving space beside her pillow. The creature watched every movement with predatory intensity, but when she stilled, it took one hesitant step forward, then another, until it reached her bedside. Without warning, it launched itself onto the mattress, circled twice, and curled into a tight ball against her pillow, its small body trembling. Maya's hand hovered in the air before finally settling gently on the creature's scaled flank. It was warm, and beneath her palm, she could feel the rapid flutter of a heartbeat. The creature made a low, thrumming purr that seemed to resonate in her chest, and pressed closer. Maya knew she should report this, knew that harboring an unknown species violated at least 7 different Academy regulations. But as the creature's breathing finally slowed, she found herself simply lying down beside it, her hands still offering comfort. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tonight, this frightened child just needed somewhere safe to sleep. Morning came too quickly, announced by the sharp chime of reveille. The memory crashed over her, and she looked down to find the creature still pressed against her pillow, watching her with those luminous eyes, no longer afraid but curious. Maya grabbed her datapad with shaking hands and pulled up the Academy's xenobiology database. When the match appeared on her screen, her blood ran cold. Kethryn, apex predator species, class 4, danger rating, known for aggressive territorial behavior and documented attacks on smaller species. The image showed an adult specimen easily the size of a Terran lion, with serrated fangs and claws designed to rend armor. The notation made her stomach drop. Approach only with full hazard protocols. Juveniles particularly volatile. Maya looked from the screen to the creature, now grooming its whiskers with one clawed paw, looking for all the world like an oversized kitten. The corridor outside erupted with voices of the cadets, heading to morning formation, and panic seized Maya's chest. She scooped up the cub, ignoring its surprised chirp, and stuffed it into her footlocker, whispering frantic apologies. The creature's head poked out, ears flat, and Maya pressed a finger to her lips. To her amazement, the cub ducked back down, pulling fabric over itself. She'd barely sealed the locker when the ship's AI spoke. "Cadet Torres, irregular life signs detected in your quarters. Explain." Maya's mind raced. "Biological experiment for xenobiology class," she said, forcing confidence into her voice. "Synthesized protein cultures." The AI was silent for 3 seconds. "Noted. Maintain proper containment protocols." The footlocker lid cracked open, and the cub's snout emerged. Maya knelt beside it, and without warning, it scrambled out and pressed its head against her chest, that thrumming purr returning. "Warm," it said, the word mangled but unmistakable. Maya's breath caught. "You can talk." The cub's eyes fixed on hers. "Warm," it repeated, and she understood. It wasn't describing temperature, it was describing her. This creature had been looking for more than shelter. It had been looking for comfort, for someone who wouldn't hurt it. Maya gathered the cub closer, feeling it relax with absolute trust, and knew everything was about to get complicated. Over the next days, Maya became an expert in deception, modifying her quarters sensors to mask the cub's biosignature. She taught it to hide when footsteps approached, to stay silent during inspections. But at night, the cub would emerge and curl beside her pillow, as if that space had been designed specifically for it. The cub learned quickly, too quickly for something supposedly driven by pure predatory instinct. It began mimicking her movements, watching with fascination as she performed mundane tasks. The breakthrough came during breakfast, when Maya placed a spoon in the cub's paw-like appendage. The first attempts were disasters, but Maya persisted with patience, guiding its grip, demonstrating the motion. When the cub finally managed to bring a spoonful to its mouth without incident, it paused, looked at Maya with something that might have been pride, and carefully set the spoon down before pressing its forehead to her hand. Nest, it said. Another mangled word, but the meaning clear. Not home, not shelter nest, the place where the vulnerable were protected. Maya felt tears prick her eyes as she realized this child had given her a title, had claimed her as something between parent and guardian. But secrets aboard a military vessel had a way of unraveling. The whispers started odd sounds from her quarters, unexplained thermal signatures, double rations requested. Security footage showed thermal blooms that couldn't be explained. The warning came from Cadet Jakar, a Vrexian she'd helped pass astrogation theory. They're planning a room search, he hissed. Tomorrow, dawn cycle. Whatever you're hiding, move it now. The ventilation shafts seemed like the obvious solution until Maya actually tried to coax the cub into them. The creature, now nearly twice its original size, balked at the narrow opening. Please, Maya whispered. I need you to trust me. The cub looked from her to the shaft and back, its tail lashing uncertainty. Then it pressed its head to her palm and squeezed into the darkness. Maya modified the ventilation sensors and prayed her engineering would hold. The search team arrived with dawn cycle exactly as Jakar had warned. What they found was an immaculately maintained dorm room. All regulations followed to the letter. They scanned every centimeter, but Maya's weeks of careful cleaning had paid off. No scales left behind, no biological evidence. As they prepared to leave, the lead officer paused at her locker. Open it. Maya complied, revealing spare uniforms and personal effects from Earth. The officer's eyes lingered on a photograph of Maya at a zoo, her arm around a tiger, her smile bright. The officer's expression shifted. You humans and your predators, she muttered, but there was no accusation in it. Dismissed, but the cub couldn't stay in the ventilation system forever, and the strain was showing in Maya's grades, in the dark circles under her eyes. The decision was made for her when she heard the cub's distress call echoing through the vents, followed by the mechanical whir of security drones. Maya ran, sprinting through corridors. She found the maintenance access panel breached, security bots converging on a small form, their weapons charging. Without thinking, Maya threw herself between the cub and the drones. Stand down. I take full responsibility. The drones hesitated. In that moment, the cub scrambled up her back and wrapped itself around her shoulders, and Maya knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The tribunal convened within hours. Maya stood at attention, the cub whom she'd taken to calling Echo pressed against her chest beneath her jacket. The charges were read: unauthorized harboring of a dangerous species, modification of security systems, endangering the academy. Each one carried potential expulsion at minimum. When asked how she pleaded, Maya met the Kethran ambassador's Izzos, same luminous orbs, now multiplied in size and intensity, and said simply, guilty. The ambassador rose. You admit to stealing my offspring. Maya felt Echo trembling, but didn't loosen her grip. I admit to providing shelter to a frightened child who came to me seeking safety. The words hung in the air. Your species are apex predators. Mine were too. Once. We hunted, we killed, we dominated our world. But we also learned that strength means nothing without compassion. That being able to destroy doesn't mean we should. That the most powerful thing a human can do is choose gentleness. She unzipped her jacket fully, revealing Echo. This cub wasn't afraid of humans because we're weak. It came to me because somehow, it knew we were safe. Echo raised its head, looked directly at the ambassador, and spoke. Human ... safe. Human ... warm. Human ... nest. The chamber fell silent. The ambassador's ears went flat. No being has ever been called safe by our young. They trust only blood, only pack, their gaze fixed on Maya. "What are you?" Maya thought of every human who'd chosen mercy when vengeance was easier. "We're survivors," she said quietly. "And we learned that the best way to survive is together." One by one, cadets from across the galaxy stood to speak, sharing their own experiences with humans. A Vrexian who'd been lost during training, found and guided back by a human who'd missed their own exam. A Silicoid tutored by a human who'd researched their biology for weeks. A Centauri whose damaged ship was rescued by a human freighter that had diverted from a lucrative trade route. The pattern emerged. Humans helped, even when it cost them, even when it made no tactical sense. The tribunal dismissed all charges, with the caveat that Maya would be responsible for Echo's integration. More significantly, they drafted the compassion clause, a provision allowing for interspecies guardianship in cases where abandonment would cause psychological harm. The ambassador approached Maya, moving with lethal grace. But when they stood before her, they did something unprecedented. They lowered their head, exposing the vulnerable throat, the highest sign of respect in Kethran society. "Raise my child well, Nestkeeper," the ambassador said, "and perhaps teach our people what you have taught them, that strength and kindness are not opposites." Years later, Maya would stand on the bridge of a diplomatic vessel, no longer a cadet but a lieutenant, specializing in interspecies relations. With Echo now nearly her height beside her, they were approaching a contested system where two species had been at war for generations, sent because their story had resonated across the galaxy, suggesting that bridges could be built between even the most unlikely allies. As they reviewed their mission parameters, Echo leaned against her shoulder, and Maya felt that same thrumming purr that had first greeted her years ago. On the Academy ship, in the same quarters Maya had once occupied, a new cadet, a Centauri named Vel, was settling in for their first night when they heard scratching in the ventilation shaft. The grate fell, and a small, frightened creature emerged. This one covered in chitinous plates instead of scales, but with the same two large eyes reflecting the same desperate need for safety. Vel remembered the stories, remembered the lesson that had spread through the Academy. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is be gentle. They made their voice soft and whispered, "Hey, you're safe here." And as the creature took its first hesitant step forward, the pattern continued. Humanity's strange gift rippling outward through a galaxy that was slowly learning that being human meant being home.